Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, my name's Zoe. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn on that bell so you're notified every single time that I post. And if you're a current subscriber, just check down below that your bell is on, as YouTube doesn't like suggesting true crime content. So today, again, I'm just going to get straight into today's video. In the description box down below will be a disclaimer and all the information that you need to know around this case and stuff like that will all be down below. Don't forget to check out my socials and go and follow me on Instagram just to keep up to date with what's going on with me at the moment. And let's jump in to today's case. Today's case is one of the weirdest cases I have come across. Today we are talking about the unsolved murder of Robert Blair Adams. Now, Robert was commonly known to all his friends and family as Blair, so I will go ahead in this video and call him Blair throughout. Blair Adams was born on the 28th of December 1964 and he lived in British Columbia, Canada. His family had described him as a happy person. He worked in construction and he really loved his job. But Blair was unfortunately found dead at the young age of 31 on the 11th of July in 1996. But his death is considered murder and it is suspicious. And the weeks and days leading up to his death and the circumstances around his death are really strange. In the weeks leading to his death, his family had said how his moods had changed. He had become more erratic and he had trouble sleeping. And when asked by family members what was going on, he said he just couldn't talk about it. His mother tried to talk to him about what was troubling him. She knew something was wrong with her son, as all mothers do, it's just a mother's instinct. But no matter how many times she would ask him, sit him down and talk to him, she never got further into the conversation and she never knew what was going on. On the 5th of July 1996, he took all the money out of his savings account and his safety deposit box. He also had thousands of pounds worth of jewellery and platinum gold. On the 7th of July, he travelled to the American/Canadian border and he was trying to cross over into the United States. Because he had a large amount of cash with him, the fact that he was single and just his whole demeanour in general, this made the officers at the border believe that he was up to no good and possibly delving into drugs. So they refused him access across the border. The very next day, Blair arrived at his job in Surrey like he was meant to, but for some reason he just quit his job on the spot. That same day, he bought an all-round trip from Vancouver to Frankfurt in Germany, and this all in all cost him around $1,600. He had been to Frankfurt in the past for work, but nothing suggested as to why he would want to travel there now. But for some reason, he changed his mind quite quickly about going to Germany. He travelled to a friend's house and told his friend that he needed help crossing the border. He was adamant that he needed to get into the United States, so he was asking his friend for help. And his friend noticed that his behaviour was kind of erratic and a little bit weird, so she was concerned. When she asked him what was going on, he said that someone was trying to kill him. He was very paranoid and his friend could see this. But she had children at home. She couldn't just up and leave in the evening to take him across the border. She had to stay at home. So she advised that he just go home and go to bed. The next day, on the 9th of July, Blair heads to the airport as his flight was due to leave. But for some reason, he asked for a full refund. He then went and rented a car, a Nissan Altima, and for some reason, he rented a car even though he had just driven his own car to the airport. He then drives to the border in the rental car to attempt to cross the border again. And this time he is successful and manages to cross the border into the United States. Blair continues driving and he actually drives to Seattle International Airport and it is here where he purchases a one-way ticket to Washington DC. This seems strange to investigators as a one-way ticket was double the price of an all-round trip. So why didn't he purchase the all-round trip ticket to save himself a lot of money? When he arrived in Washington DC the next day, he actually rented out another car, a white Toyota, and headed to Knoxville. This is another weird factor in a very strange journey. He didn't know anybody in Knoxville or in the United States, in fact. So why was he travelling there? Why was he headed in that direction? At 5:30 p.m. that day, Blair arrived at a gas station in Knoxville, and he told the attendant that he was having trouble with his rental car. For some reason, the key that he had wasn't working. When the attendant took a closer look at the keys and the car, he actually told Blair that he didn't have the right keys for the right car. He was trying to use the keys for the Nissan that he had previously rented. Blair and the attendant couldn't find this key anywhere, so the attendant at the gas station actually rings a mechanic to come and help Blair. When the mechanic arrived, he actually told Blair to double check everywhere for this key, including all his pockets and all his bags, but Blair just point blank refused, saying he knew. He was adamant that it was nowhere to be seen. For some strange reason, Blair couldn't get his head around why he had the wrong key. He was adamant that the key he had in his hand was the right key for the right car. For some reason, he was really confused. There was nothing the mechanic could do, so he organised to have the rental car towed to a local garage, and he gave Blair a lift to a local hotel. His behaviour continued to be strange, and this is something that the hotel manager actually picked up on. And his strange behaviour was also caught on the hotel's CCTV. He was acting nervous, he looked suspicious, he was walking in and out of the lobby and out of the hotel and then back in again, and he did that a total of 5 times before even attempting to go and purchase a room. He then paid for his room with a $100 bill and then just rushed off without his change, and it was like he was trying to get away from somebody, or he was scared of somebody seeing where he was. The receptionist did try to give him the change back multiple times, but she couldn't get through to his room on the telephone. This is because he never made it to the room. Blair just left the hotel and he was never spotted alive again. The next day, on the 11th of July, Blair's body is discovered at around 7:30 a.m. It was discovered by 2 construction workers in the car park of a hotel that was under construction. He was naked from the waist down and his shirt was open. His pants, socks and shoes were all found scattered around his body. Strangely, there was also German, Canadian and US currency scattered around his body too, and it was believed that there was around $4,000 there. They found a duffel bag near his body which contained travel maps and receipts, and they also found a fanny pack which contained gold bars, jewellery, platinum coins, keys and sunglasses. Even more weirdly, they found the keys for the car that he had lost the night before just a metre away from his body. When the autopsy was conducted on Blair's body, it was discovered that he had actually died from a blow to the stomach. Police do believe that a weapon was used, either a crowbar or a club. He had a cut to his head, and it was believed that the weapon would have caused this injury. He sustained many cuts and bruises, which police believe are defensive wounds. Whoever attacked him, Blair tried to fight off. It's believed that the blow to his stomach was powerful enough to rupture it. So his cause of death was listed as sepsis caused by abdominal perforation. It is also believed that he was sexually assaulted. There was injuries to show that he had been sexually assaulted, but there was actually no DNA evidence to prove it. The only DNA evidence they had was a long strand of hair that was gripped in Blair's hand. An investigation was started immediately into Blair's death. Police believed that his thoughts about being followed were imaginary, but unfortunately, just like he feared, he was murdered. They believe he was killed around 3:30 a.m. A construction worker had heard a scream at this time, but the worker had initially thought it was a woman's scream. Also, on the evening of his death, he was spotted in Knoxville with an unidentified man at different locations. A sketch was made of this man and he has never been identified. And police are still unsure to this day whether this man had any influence in Blair's murder. When police interviewed his family, it was actually here that they discovered his demeanour had changed in previous weeks. But Blair had never been diagnosed with any mental health illness. He was a drug and alcohol addict, but he had been completely sober for over 2 years at the time of his death. That part of his life, that chapter, was well and truly behind him. There wasn't any official suspects in this case. Police first thought that this could have been a robbery gone wrong. But as we're aware, all of his belongings, all that money, all that gold, and just he had thousands of pounds with him and that was left there. If he had been robbed or mugged, and even if it went wrong, no doubt the person who would have done it would have taken that money. So this was one theory that police ruled out pretty quickly. There was no evidence to suggest that his murder was drug related, so this was another theory that was ruled out. The last theory that was looked into and ruled out was that he was possibly killed by a prostitute or pimp. But again, there was no evidence to suggest he had actually ever been with a prostitute. Investigators looked into every single lead that they had in this case, but could not find any significant information. DNA has been taken from the hair that was found in Blair's hand, but there has never been a match. His mother was re-interviewed in the years following her son's murder, and she did kind of bring some different information to light to police, but I don't necessarily know whether that was helpful or not. She believed her son had some sexual encounters and relationships with a male friend. So this led police to believe that this murder could have been a homosexual encounter gone wrong. She had also suggested that her son travelled to the USA to go to the Olympics. But given the strangeness around his journey and no one knowing exactly where he was going or where he was planning on going, this theory isn't something that police can confirm. I have a lot of questions about this case, and researching it more and looking into it even more just brings me even more questions. Why did he travel to an area he didn't know, and why was his travel plans or the things he did so erratic? Did he have a mental illness that was undiagnosed? Was this an effect of drug and alcohol abuse from the past? There is literally so many questions around this case that we want answers to, but I'm not sure when we will get them answers. There needs to be a big break in this case, or somebody come forward with some sort of information for us to have any answers around this case. As always, I do hope that this case gets solved and his family has some closure. If you do have information on this case or know of anybody who does, please contact the relevant people. Their information will be down below as usual. Like I've said a couple of times now, this is one of the weirdest cases I've researched, so I do want to know your theories around this case. I know there isn't a lot of information and the video is short, but if you do have a theory, even if it's one that I've already mentioned, please let me know in the comments down below. So that is all for today's true crime video. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and I shall see you next week for another true crime video. Bye.